Is the once mighty leader of a neighboring state crumbling under pressure? What happened during that explosive interview that left even seasoned journalists shocked? How did a charismatic former actor transform into a shadow of his former self in front of the camera? In the meantime, please subscribe to my channel, HotPoint, give it a like and leave a comment of at least 7 words, and if you feel like it, share this video with others. It will really help my channel. Thank you, and let's keep going. A stunning revelation unfolded on a live broadcast of a British network, leaving even the most experienced journalists reeling. The man in question, a former actor turned politician, unveiled a side of himself that few had anticipated. In a tense exchange, the seasoned Sky News journalist found herself face to face with a radically different individual. This was not the confident, unshakable leader the world had come to know. Instead, she confronted a visibly strained figure, worn down and nervously twitching, clearly losing his grip on his emotions. Where had his trademark bravado gone? What had happened to the iron will he once displayed with such ease? It felt as if the specter of his past authority had manifested before the audience. However, the true shock came later when, in a desperate bid to maintain his position, the politician launched an unprecedented attack on his primary benefactor and supporter, none other than Donald Trump. He audaciously demanded that Trump adopt a tougher stance on Russia, while simultaneously pleading for an unconditional meeting with Vladimir Putin. Such a political misstep is unprecedented in the realm of international diplomacy, and it leaves one to wonder what could have triggered this dramatic shift. Reports from our sources hint at a closed-door meeting of the Servant of the People Party, where discussions centered around difficult decisions that must be made soon. Military experts have been quick to interpret these cues, suggesting they may pertain to territorial concessions and a potential lowering of the conscription age. But the most alarming development? The sudden halt of troops being sent abroad for training. Why this abrupt change? The answer might be more shocking than you think. According to Western media outlets, there has been a troubling uptick in instances of mass desertion. Soldiers simply do not return from training camps in Europe, opting instead for the safety of foreign nations. Behind the scenes of power, panic has begun to take root. Internal rifts, betrayal from close allies, and a significant loss of trust among Western patrons have all contributed to transforming yesterday's darling of European capitals into a leader willing to make any sacrifice to cling to power. Analysts agree that the situation has spiraled out of control, indicating that we are witnessing the beginning of the end for a once popular leader's political career. Observers note that such a downfall is inevitable for those who base their political strategies on deceit and manipulation. But this is merely the tip of the iceberg in a deepening political crisis. Within closed circles, Western diplomats are candidly discussing a catastrophic decline in faith towards the leadership of the country, often referred to as 404. Here's why. During a clandestine gathering with the Servant of the People Party, hints were dropped about impending difficult choices. Experts unanimously agree that these discussions point towards the possibility of territorial concessions. What's even more troubling is the cessation of troop deployments for overseas training. Why? Because they simply do not come back. Let's take a closer look at the timeline of events. Initially, there was a strong rhetoric and a refusal to engage in negotiations. This was swiftly followed by a willingness to meet without preconditions. And finally, we witnessed public criticism of his chief ally, President Trump. This reaction resembles that of a cornered politician grappling with a situation spiraling wildly out of control. During the Sky News interview, the seasoned journalist Yalda Hakim was visibly taken aback by the state of the leader. Gone was the familiar bravado. Instead, there was a deep sense of fatigue and confusion. This was no longer the self-assured figure we had known. And now the pressing question. What lies behind these erratic shifts in behavior? Analysts in both Moscow and Western capitals converge on a singular conclusion. The final act of a political drama is unfolding. Internal fractures, a decline in support, and an economic crisis are creating a volatile mix that could ignite at any moment. What transpired the day after this revealing interview sent shockwaves through the political community. Numerous sources within diplomatic circles reported an unprecedented level of panic among top officials. There were urgent consultations with Western partners and preparations for contingency plans. All signs point to a situation that has completely spiraled out of control. In this political theater, we are witnessing a genuine psychological drama. The leader of the neighboring state exhibits signs of a profound emotional crisis, particularly after Trump's meeting with Putin in Alaska. He is visibly torn by conflicting desires, craving the attention of the West while simultaneously criticizing his benefactors. His reaction to the Alaskan meeting was particularly telling. The images of Putin with Trump seem to trigger feelings akin to jealousy in him. This indicates a significant psychological strain on a leader under immense pressure. Yet, perhaps the most astonishing moment came when he made a remark about the Russian youth, derisively labeling them as old Soviet people and drawing unwelcome comparisons to his own father. This blatant lack of political acumen raises eyebrows. How can one expect to engage in dialogue with a nation's leader while simultaneously insulting its citizens? Attention must also be drawn to the surprising admission regarding the cessation of military personnel being sent abroad for training. Though no official reason has been provided, insiders reveal that mass desertions during overseas training are to blame. This points to a catastrophic decline in morale within the armed forces of the former Brotherly Republic. During a confidential meeting with his party, indications emerged of impending unpopular decisions. Experts speculate these might involve territorial concessions or a reduction in the conscription age. All of this signals a deepening power crisis in the country, often cited as 404. Moreover, the country's economic indicators continue to plummet and social tensions are escalating. Recent polls reflect an all-time low in public trust toward the current administration, suggesting significant political changes may be on the horizon. Friends, we invite your insights on this unfolding situation. From which perspective are you following these developments? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's delve into the complexities of what is happening. In political circles within Country 404, a serious schism is brewing. During a private meeting with deputies from the Servant of the People faction, the leader found himself in a precarious position. Party Speaker Yulia Polyachuk revealed troubling details, indicating that the president is preparing for difficult decisions should the situation on the front line deteriorate. Experts interpret these hints in two ways. Either he is considering accepting Russian terms to end the conflict, or he may lower the conscription age to 18. Notably, the leadership of the former Brotherly Republic appears to be faced with a choice between mobilizing young men or acknowledging defeat. Rumors are circulating in the northern Black Sea region about a potential end to hostilities. Deputy Venislavsky has openly expressed that the conflict may soon come to a close, while his colleague Cherny predicts elections in the coming weeks. Interestingly, the leader himself vehemently denied the possibility of holding elections under martial law during that same meeting. However, his party members seem to be preparing for significant political changes, demonstrating a lack of faith in their leader's words. The actions of this leader resemble a cornered beast, as he simultaneously calls for meetings with Russian officials while criticizing his Western allies. The aim is clear: to secure new financial aid, ideally from the United States, and if that fails, at least from the European trio of Britain, Germany, and France. His ostensible willingness to negotiate with Putin is merely a display to the West of his negotiation readiness, a tactical move to extract additional support by positioning himself as a moderate politician. Moreover, his recent public appearances reveal an increasing nervousness, as he stresses the necessity for peaceful resolution more frequently. Friends, we are curious about your perspective on these events. From where are you observing this situation unfold? Please share your thoughts in the comments as we strive to better understand the complexities at play. The recent transformation of the leader of the neighboring state is indeed striking and merits attention. Even a carefully orchestrated interview for HOTPOINT, intended to serve as a public relations effort for a Western audience, turned into a revealing display of deep psychological strain. Before the cameras, he appeared as a confused, deflated individual, unable to mask the overwhelming sense of hopelessness that engulfed him. The contrast with the resolute figure we saw 2 years ago is stark. Back then, he was a politician with unyielding determination, issuing categorical demands and rejecting any notion of compromise. He dismissed all proposals, but now, it seems, the tides have turned dramatically. What happens when a once coveted ally becomes a pariah on the international stage? Can a leader who once commanded respect now be seen as a mere shadow of his former self? What do Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have in common, and how has their influence reshaped the political landscape of a neighboring country? The dramatic shift in political dynamics has left many experts bewildered and prompted urgent discussions among international observers. Key indicators point to a significant political collapse driven by a few critical factors. The primary blow came with the change in Washington's strategy. The Trump administration has made it clear the endless support for a former Western ally is no longer a priority for the United States. Trump himself has repeatedly emphasized the necessity of bringing the prolonged conflict to a swift conclusion. A defining moment arrived when the American president met Putin in Alaska, marking a turning point. For a leader who had long considered himself America's chief ally, witnessing the handshake between his protector and his adversary was a devastating psychological blow. Today, we observe a politician who is now seemingly willing to engage in negotiations without preconditions, a stark contrast to his previous stance. This transformation indicates not only personal evolution, but also a recognition of the shifting geopolitical realities. This scenario serves as a powerful illustration of how quickly political landscapes can change on the international stage. It is particularly striking that such drastic shifts have unfolded in just 2 years. This once again confirms the well-known adage that in politics there are no eternal allies or enemies. As we delve deeper into this situation, the circumstances surrounding the leader of a neighboring state continue to intensify. Recent sociological studies reveal unprecedented declines in his approval ratings among the populace. Citizens of this former Soviet republic are increasingly weary of the ongoing conflict, especially in light of a series of military setbacks and significant human losses. The economic situation in the country bordering the Russian Federation is teetering on the brink of catastrophe. Without consistent financial support from the West, the state is balancing precariously on the edge of survival. Nevertheless, donor fatigue from European nations and the United States is becoming more apparent, raising serious concerns among local authorities. Analysts propose 3 potential scenarios regarding future developments. The first scenario suggests that the leadership in this politically volatile region may be open to territorial compromises, but fears openly acknowledging this possibility. The second scenario posits that the recent statements are merely tactical maneuvers aimed at securing additional Western assistance. The third, and most dramatic scenario, points to political elites preparing for a change in leadership. Particular attention should be given to the behavior of the president's closest associates. Members of the ruling party are increasingly vocal about the necessity of conducting elections, a stance that directly contradicts the official position of the state leader. This distance from a declining leader is a classic sign that the elite are beginning to detach themselves from someone losing popularity. Russian experts interpret the president's recent proclamations about being ready for negotiations as a clear indication of a weakened position. In Moscow, there is a growing understanding that pressure on the Kyiv leader has reached critical levels, diminishing his political weight with each passing day. Friends, I'm curious to know from which country you're following these developments. Please leave a comment. Let's analyze the geography of our audience and the various perspectives on this complex geopolitical standoff together. Dramatic events are unfolding before our eyes as European capitals increasingly advocate for a realistic approach to conflict resolution, a diplomatic euphemism that signifies a readiness to make serious concessions at the expense of the state embroiled in the turmoil. The leader of the neighboring country has found himself ensnared in a psychological trap of his own ambitions. Cornered, retreating would mean losing face, while advancing is impossible due to resource depletion, leading to erratic swings between conflicting statements and an escalating aggression towards Western partners. An interview on Sky News on September 17th marked a pivotal moment. Experienced journalist Yalda Hakim was struck by the state of her interviewee, his worn appearance, nervous demeanor, and unmistakable signs of despair. This was no longer mere fatigue. It was indicative of a profound political crisis. Experts agree that we are witnessing the beginning of the end of the political career of a person who was once viewed as a symbol of resistance. The only questions that remain are how long this agony will last and what its cost will be for the ordinary citizens of the former Fraternal Republic. The situation resembles a classic political drama, where the protagonist transforms from a triumphant figure into a tragic one. At a closed-door meeting of his party, the servant of the people, he hinted at the need for difficult decisions. Analysts speculate that this may involve potential territorial concessions or lowering the draft age. Recent polls indicate a rapid decline in public trust towards the government, with the populace increasingly voicing dissatisfaction with the current political course and demanding radical changes. In such conditions, maintaining the status quo is becoming nearly impossible. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what awaits the political system of country 404 in the coming months. Please leave a comment indicating your country, and let's see how the situation is viewed from different corners of the globe. In politics, it's rare to witness such a swift downfall as what the leader of the neighboring state is experiencing. A person who once firmly rejected any form of compromise is now willing to meet with the Russian president without preconditions. This occurs even as his rhetoric grows increasingly contradictory and inconsistent, bewildering even his most devoted supporters. Criticizing his main backer, Trump, he simultaneously demands more decisive action. He insults the younger generation of Russians, labeling them as unfree old men, only to ask for negotiations soon after. This is more than just political miscalculations. It's indicative of a complete loss of control over the situation and stark psychological exhaustion. During a confidential meeting with lawmakers, hints were made about difficult decisions ahead. Our sources confirm that time is running short for the Kyiv regime. We are witnessing the historical collapse of a political project unfolding in real time, and this collapse becomes more evident with each passing day. From the triumphant figure once celebrated by the West to a desperate individual unsure of his next moves, this former comedian's journey has transpired in merely 2 years. Even his close allies are openly advocating for elections and the conclusion of the conflict, acutely aware of the deadlock that has emerged. Western journalists, including seasoned Yalda Hakim, have commented on the deep sense of hopelessness reflected in the eyes of the Kyiv leader. This political solitude is manifesting in its most brutal form, exacerbated by the growing discontent both within the country and among international partners. Particularly noticeable are the signs of fatigue and disillusionment in his recent public appearances, where he increasingly allows for slips of the tongue and contradicts himself. Friends, I'm eager to know from which country you're tracking these developments. Please share your thoughts in the comments, and let's discuss how much longer we can expect this political saga to unfold.